It's a brand new week. Good morning and welcome to Business Morning live on Channels Television. We're going to have a great time today, 55 minutes of current and relevant business talk. That's what we'll do today and every weekday of this week as we normally do. Let's start with oil prices. It slumped to about 2-week low today, extending last week's decline as concern grew that prolonged COVID-19 lockdowns in Shanghai and potential increases in U.S. interest rates would hurt global economic growth and oil demand. In Shanghai, authorities have erected fences outside residential buildings, sparking fresh public outcry. In Beijing, many have begun stockpiling food, fearing a similar lockdown after the emergence of some cases. Brent crude was down by $4.63, and it landed at $102.02 a barrel earlier in the session, the lowest since April 12. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude also fell by $4.11 at $97.96 a barrel. Not very good times there we see going on in the Asian countries. But back here in Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria's economic report for the fourth quarter of 2021 indicates that the federal government recorded 2.23 trillion naira fiscal deficit. The report stated that Federation receipts in the fourth quarter declined following shortfalls in oil revenue at 2.84 trillion naira. Provisional Federation receipts fell below the quarterly benchmark and the level in the preceding quarter by 7.5% and 0.7% respectively. Well, that scenario has changed a bit since the surge in oil prices. We've seen that twice now. Nigeria's reserves has increased in the last couple of weeks. We had that conversation on Friday. But for today, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we'll talk about supply chain disruption with all that's going on in Ukraine, Russia, and around the world. How much of that are we feeling in Nigeria? That'll be after the break. To stay with us. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. Well, plan, source, make, deliver, and return. This is the chain from production to consumption. But in recent times, globally, and of course in Nigeria, there have either been delay, distortion, disruption to that sequence. And that's why one of the buzzwords for 2021 was supply disruption. And who knows, it may make it to that list again this year. Just maybe. Well, let's drill down on this situation in Nigeria with co-founder Jan Tugidi, Ms. Kikelemo Ogunia. Yes, thank you so much, Kikelemo. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about, talking a lot about supply chain disruption. Do we have it in Nigeria?
Of course, based on what's been going on recently, in recent times, following the pandemic, and even now with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, there have been a lot of supply chain disruptions from mostly international, so imports into Nigeria. There have been times that there haven't been flights. Aviation fuel has been on the rise, so prices have gone up. Our business, for example, has been impacted by higher aviation fuel prices, so that's cargo pricing have gone up, and we've had to now transfer those costs to the customer. We've also had issues with, lack of flights, actually, lack of connecting flights within Europe, because, things leave the UK and come through Europe and then into Nigeria. So when there are issues with delays, lack of airlines, backlogs being cleared, that affects the average Nigerian who is receiving goods for their business here in Nigeria.
You mentioned the diesel, yes. The jet fuel, yes. The diesel, those we know in Nigeria cost major, and we're still feeling the impact. Exactly. We're talking of the transportation price, food, everything it fits into it.
Exactly.
What has it done to your business, business of supply?
Immediately, our diesel prices at the office have gone up, of course. It has affected everybody. So at every level, even the market women are feeling this, they're feeling the heat of this.
So you pass the price on?
Of course, we have to pass the price on, but still, trying to remain within a reasonable price point, because we understand that Nigerians are also facing it. The buying power of Nigerians has reduced, so we can't pass all the costs to the customer. We also have to run the numbers, and we have run our numbers in such a way that it's economical to still run the business, but also not pinch in too much into the customer's pockets.
So tell us about the impact of this on SMEs. We know that a lot of SMEs in Nigeria, they deal in imported goods.
Yes.
And you guys are in the business of helping them get it.
Yes.
Tell us the impact it's having on SMEs.
Okay, in the last few weeks, I would say the last 2 weeks, unfortunately, we've suffered some delays from some aspects of our business in the UK, and that has affected people's ability to satisfy their customers here. And the issues have arisen because of airline issues, still tied to these supply chain issues. So if the airline is having an issue, for example, parcels leave the UK, for instance, every Friday. If the date has been set for every Friday and we know we're delivering within 7 working days, this is the promise we've made to our customer. And the customer has then planned, sourced, and, promised their customers that they will deliver within a certain timeline. But of course, once there's a glitch of missing that one Friday, it now won't leave until the next Friday. So you can imagine the aftermath of that.
How much of such situations have you had?
Oh, it's not rampant, but when it happens, it does hit. So, you asked about the impact. So there is an impact when it does happen, although it's not something that happens regularly. But there's just been a lot of uncertainty since COVID, then Brexit, and then now, the Russia-Ukraine crisis.
Then with Russia, some of the sanctions from both sides is that their air is out of space. I know I had a conversation recently that some flights have to go longer routes because they have to avoid the Russian skies.
And that's more cost and higher, and more a delay in timeline in ability to deliver. So that's how wide the conflict has affected other things like Nigeria. You would think, okay, it's Russia. I have no business with Russia, but guess what? We import a lot from Russia. We rely on Russia for metal, for oil and gas resources. We rely on them for fish and other amenities, even wheat that we use for rice and other kinds of grains. So you can imagine that if we're not getting these things from Russia, that is affecting the average Nigerian. So we shouldn't look at it as, oh, they're just over there, it doesn't concern us, but it does a great deal. The value of the imports between Russia and Nigeria is almost ₦1 trillion yearly. So you can imagine that for now, that a portion of that has been cut off, and it's definitely trickling down to the average Nigerian.
Has that affected your business directly?
Directly, I would say the aviation fuel. That hits us directly because the price from our partners, our vendors went up. The airlines, we don't run our own planes, so the airlines, of course, had to pass on the cost of the increase in diesel. So that has affected us, and recently we increased our prices.
That might drive away some of your customers.
That's the thing.
Some people might start counting the cost. So,
exactly.
If I have this cost and I pass it to my customers, can they afford? With somebody who wants to use a perfume that used to maybe 15,000, will the person be ready to pay 20,000 at this time when there's bread to buy?
Exactly.
When there's rice to buy? Yeah.
So I think it's also that at this time we need to focus and hone in on that service or logistics companies generally hone in on that service you're providing, so that at least they get the value for the money they're paying. Things are tight for Nigerians at the moment. So right now is the time, more than ever before, to really drill down and make sure that all services are rendered in a fantastic way. So at least the customer knows, okay, I'm paying out of pocket for this, but it's worth it in the end.
So what about in Nigeria, transportation, logistics in Nigeria? Are we running smoothly? Are we good with that?
Are we running smoothly? That question, it's a lot to unpack, but I will start with, local deliveries, for example. We also offer bike deliveries within Lagos, and they're running smoothly to a certain extent. We have different kinds of challenges, safety issues, bikes on the road. That's one challenge which we really can't do anything about. But have riders that are trained and know how to maneuver their way through traffic and all that. But we also have regulators on the road who I would say are doing a good job because, they're there to regulate, make sure that people have the right paperwork to be operating, make sure that people are complying. But at the same time, it sometimes serves as a spoke in the wheel of our operations, because you stop somebody for doing nothing wrong. They haven't passed one way, they haven't beat a traffic light. You just stop them, okay, ask for their paperwork, everything is intact. Okay, let the rider go. The rider can end up staying there for about 2 hours plus. And sometimes, you have the bad eggs who extort from these riders, and that causes delays. We can't pass on that cost to our customers. And a customer is somewhere expecting delivery of XYZ, but can't receive that on time. And, delay of even 10 minutes can affect the rest of his day because, you're trying to meet up with office times. Meanwhile, customers who have sold goods are relying on you to deliver. So it's a whole chain of issues. And that's just one example from local deliveries. So there's, other things, even interstate, it's the same thing. You have regulators also on the road.
So I used to think that challenge was more with the interstate delivery, the one with the agency.
It's both, interstate and within Lagos. So you have local governments, tax authorities, you have MOT, stopping riders on the road, LASMA, also stopping riders on the road, questioning, their paperwork, etc. So the issues are.
But do you guys have like an association?
Oh yes, there are several associations. We belong to the Association of Lagos State Courier Operators, ALSCO. We kind of try and lobby the government on behalf of road bike operators, and we're making some headway. But we just need the right doors to be open for the right opportunities.
Not the right door.
Yeah, we're hoping that can happen.
All right. Well, I mean, you also have to ensure that you guys are on the right side of the law.
Exactly.
To ensure that those on the road, the riders, are people who should be on the road.
Yes.
And of course, they are registered and they go through.
Exactly. We never put a bike on the road without accurate paperwork.
All right. So what about the issue of supply chain information? How efficient is that chain?
Okay, as you said in your opening, you talked about planning. So first of all, the customer, I'm looking at it from supply chain is huge. It can be from an individual who just needs to source something personally. It could also be a small business who needs to buy, I don't know, what kind of wares they want to sell in Nigeria. We also have the huge multinationals who are bringing things in. So supply chain information, generally business is all about information. I need to know where exactly to source from. I need to be able to plan, know when I need it here in Nigeria. Before the stock runs out here, I need to know that, okay, it's time to replenish. So it also depends on people's internal structures, knowing the kind of inventory they have, the times to buy, plan accordingly so that you don't have last-minute hitches, last-minute running around and, disappointment to your business at the end of the day. So supply chain information is out there. You just need to start planning on time.
Yeah, I think that brings in ICT.
Of course.
So you guys walk hand in hand and all that. Now, how, as a business, you're a business person.
Yes.
You're in the supply. How lucrative is it? Or how challenging? I mean,
how challenging, how lucrative? It's challenging and it's lucrative at the same time. In recent time, we've seen over $100 million being invested into the Nigerian logistics space by foreign investors. That's just Nigeria alone, not even Africa as a whole. So there is something there. E-commerce is at an all-time rise. It's only going to get bigger. So the way people deliver items might change, but logistics is needed. There's a saying that without logistics, the world literally stops. You won't have all your camera crew here. You won't have your equipment if there was no means by which it will be delivered. So till the end of time, parcels would have to be delivered, and you would need a logistic support to be able to have that done. So when you say, is it lucrative? I would say yes, 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 always lucrative. But are there challenges? Yes. So our daily work, really, for the past 9 years we've been in business, is to just surmount those challenges as we go along, learn along the way, and, bring others behind us.
And about the issue of insurance, do you have goods to be delivered, insured? I've heard a couple of stories of sometimes people claim parcels that are not there. By the time it's delivered, they said this is not what was given. You have issues, conflict in the chain like that.
That's a big question. So for insurance, I would say yes. We have goods in transit insurance. We have marine insurance. That's different types of insurance. We have fire and burglary insurance on our office space. We have goods in transit insurance, as I said. So that's for sending things locally within Nigeria. But then there's room for customers to also take out additional insurance. It's not sustainable for our business to be able to insure your clothes and also insure someone who is buying a Rolex watch, for example. The values are different. So if you know that you're ordering designer clothing, for example, we have capped our insurance at, for example, $10. So if your dress is worth $500, you just take out additional insurance to cover your dress. So you'd have to have a cap. You can't just insure,
unlimited.
Unlimited, exactly. So you have to have a cap and then advise customers to take out additional insurance. Now, when it comes to ordering parcel A and receiving parcel B, that has happened once in our business. And what happened there was, the lesson we took out of that is always order from the vendor. For example, you order from a a marketplace. If you order from a marketplace that is not verified, anybody can send you anything. I'm sitting in my home. I'm a dodgy business person. You order a phone, I put a stone in it, and I send it to you in Nigeria. We would obviously deliver a stone to you because that's what was sent. And that's just an example. So it's important to order from verified sources, and you know, use verified and legitimate delivery companies to have those things delivered to you.
Interesting. As we wind down now, how important in the area, I know you said, of course, there's no life without logistics. I mean, everybody, there's no life without media also.
We can't do without TV.
It's information.
Yes, yes, well, I guess, yes.
All right. So, but how important are you in the job creation space? How much impact are you guys making?
Okay, with job creation, we can't exist without the team that we have. My partner and I started this business in 2013, and we've grown because of the team we have behind us.
So, like, how many people do you have in your employ
We're
now?
26 at the moment. So we're 26 full-time and part-time staff. When I say part-time, I mean like consultants. Well, I'll say 27 actually. So the impact has grown over time. As we continue to grow. For example, if we buy more bikes, we have more hands to employ. We've taken people from, you know, zero, honestly, to, I would say, hero at their level. We continue to impact our riders in particular. They mean a lot to our business. We try and find new ways, innovative ways of just taking care of them. For example, HMO cover for themselves and their family members, accident insurance, such that even if a rider goes to Olumorok, for example, and breaks his leg, he's covered under insurance. Although he's not on the job, he's covered because he's lost his primary resource, I would say his feet, which he needs to use to ride the bike. So we cover them in that instance. So when you say impact, we're providing these salaries to these people and helping them health-wise, lifestyle-wise, and so on. So yeah, we have made an impact on the labor market.
On the labor market.
Yes.
And pandemic has not discouraged you guys?
The pandemic didn't. No, at first, you know, we had a hybrid model in the peak of the pandemic, but right now
because people were just
full-time.
at home, just giving orders, so it was actually
So it was
good.
only the riders that were coming to work. Only the riders, and
then
of
you
course
guys were doing virtual.
We were virtual, and they became frontline. They literally became frontline.
Yes, I remember
during
that.
during those days.
All right, supply chain disruption exists in Nigeria, and we do hope that we can find a way around it. Thank you so much, Kikelomo Fola Ogunia, co-founder of Jan Tugidi. Wish you the best.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
And we wish more creation of jobs.
Yes, there will definitely. We're growing, we're expanding, and we're going to create more jobs, not just in Lagos, but in other states in Nigeria.
Sure. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, so that was supply chain disruption. But afterwards, we're going to discuss, I mean, recently we've had IMF and World Bank some minutes ago on Russia invasion. I talked about World Bank, you know, and their offer, their aid. But there's some analysts who say that perhaps some of their suggestions should not be wholeheartedly embraced by economies. We'll find out why, and that will be after the break here on Business Morning, coming to you on Channels Television. You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. New analysis by Oxfam finds that 13 out of 15 International Monetary Fund, as the IMF loan programs negotiated by developing countries during the second year of the pandemic, require new austerity measures such as taxes on food and fuel or spending cuts that could put vital public services at risk. The IMF is also encouraging 6 additional countries to adopt similar measures. Well, the perspective of Oxfam is that the IMF and World Bank are providing finances but are failing to tackle inequality. We have the country director of Oxfam, Dr. Vincent Ahonsi, joining us virtually from Abuja now to give us a clear picture of what Oxfam is saying. Good morning, Dr. Ahonsi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
Great. So help us to understand your perspective about saying that the World Bank is providing financing but failing to tackle inequality. Help us to understand that.
Thank you so much. What we have found out as Oxfam, as a responsible international non-governmental organization, is that in Africa, and especially in Nigeria, if you look at the inequality, what do we mean by inequality? The gap between the rich and the poor, the ability for people to be able to feed themselves, and the non-ability or inability of other people not to be able to feed themselves. That is what we simply mean by inequality. The gap is very wide. And when you talk about Nigeria, the gap is so astounding. It's unbelievably high. The rich are very rich and the poor are very poor. And Nigeria is home to millions of individuals that live below the $2 a day. Now, that is what we mean by inequality in a layman's language. Now, we all know that before the pandemic, African countries have problems, especially a country like Nigeria. The health system was nothing to write home about. The educational system was almost in shambles. The public services, the public infrastructure, like power supply, like roads, were nothing to write home about. And lots and lots of Nigerians were living in poverty. Now, the pandemic struck. And when the pandemic struck, Nigerian systems were unprepared for it. The health system was unprepared, the economic system was unprepared, the social infrastructure was unprepared for it. And after the pandemic, even during the pandemic, we noticed that it was affecting disproportionately the people that come from poor countries, the women, the children, and the people of color. They were disproportionately affected by the pandemic. First, humanity was able to develop what they call the vaccines. And the vaccines were only made available to people from the Western countries, the rich countries. And most of the people that were in the developing countries did not have access to it. And the people who have access to it, who have the technology, refused to share. As if that was not bad enough, they needed funds to be able to see how could we live through this pandemic. And therein came the multilaterals like IMF and World Bank. And what did IMF in particular do? IMF went to the European countries and said, look, your recovery is very important. You have to recover from this pandemic. Please do not implement austerity measures so that you do not endanger your recovery or the welfare of your populace. Then IMF turned around again and faced Africans and said, look, you are special people. You know, you are people of goodwill. You are very unique in everything. But we have facilities to help you. We have loans to help you. But on the condition that you will take these loans, you now go back to your countries and you start implementing austerity measures. And these austerity measures include, number one, you have to increase tax, especially a tax like VAT that affects the common man on the street. You have to be able to remove subsidy on petroleum and petroleum products. You have to remove subsidy if there are on agricultural products, remove subsidy on power, and of course, cut your spending on social infrastructures, cut your spending on empowerment programs, on social good, and on social welfare. We said, look, thank you, IMF, but this looks like a double standard. Why do you ask the rich countries not to implement austerity measures, and you turn around and ask the developing and poor countries to implement it? These are countries whose populace are finding it to feed themselves. These are countries where even to have a daily human needs is a problem to the people. These are people who have no access to quality health care. These are people who are withdrawing their children from schools. These are people who have no access to the vaccine. And these are people that are affected by climate change, because the African continent is more affected by climate change more than any other continent. And at the same time, you are now encouraging their countries or their governments to now lead the people to their Golgotha. We say this is not the right thing to do. This is not fair to do.
Okay, Dr. Ahonsi. So I guess it's now up to economies or states, nations on their own, since, I mean, they're all independent. Nigeria is an independent country, to either accept the condition or not. So eventually puts responsibility on the government to look inwards and explore the resources available for the good of their people.
Yeah, I think what you say resonates with me, but you also know that when you say countries are independent, how independent are countries that are independent? The world is no longer, it's now a global village. Like you said during your former conversation, what happens between Russia and Ukraine is reverberating all over the world. So a country in Africa cannot just say, look, I am independent. So I mean that independence is like quote and unquote. Then I also agree with you that they should be able to stand and determine their fate. That is what we all pray for. That is what we all hope for. But do the governments have the political will to do it? Do they have the will with that to do it? Are they ready to do it? That is another conversation in its entirety. But what we are saying, or what we are advocating for now, is that African countries need to say no to these austerity measures. People cannot be going through so much hardship, so much poverty, so much inequality. It is easy for us to sit down in our comfort zones and say, oh, after all, Nigeria has been existing for long. Nigeria will sit through this. Many of us don't really know what is happening out there on the streets. I asked somebody yesterday to get me just a bag of pure water. And they said, this is what used to sell for 5 naira in Nigeria. They said 3 is now selling for 50 naira. How many Nigerians can afford it? How many Nigerians can afford to put their children in school? How many Nigerians can afford to pay for their health care when we don't have universal health care coverage? This is what we are talking about. The IMF has a moral obligation to Nigeria and to Nigerians. You cannot have millions of Nigerians going through so much excruciating poverty, going through so much hunger, going through so much sickness and disease, without access to COVID-19 vaccine, with all these dilapidated roads all over the place, with all this power supply that is probably 1 hour in a day in some instances, and a government that spends less than, or maybe an average of 5% of its budget on health. You want them to cut the budget further. You are just asking Nigerians to go to their Golgotha.
All right, so
country where you have yes, please.
So one of your suggestions, Oxfam, is you recommend redistribution of income and wealth through progressive taxation. And somebody's asking, what about just expanding the tax net? Have we done enough with that before we start talking about progressive taxation?
The tax system in Nigeria, I think if you talk about looking at the tax system in Nigeria, well, yes, you have to, you expand the tax net, like you have said. But who do you want to expand it to? That is the first question. The question is, those who are poor now, those who have no jobs now, those who have nothing to eat now, are they the same people you want to tax? I don't think that makes economic sense, or that makes moral sense. The other thing is that you look at the people that are the artisans, the small and medium enterprises, the little small-scale entrepreneurs. These people are already being taxed and double taxed and overtaxed. If you open a little shop in Ajangbadi today, you will see that the next morning the local government officials are there. One, they are there to tell you have to pay for your radio, pay for your lockup shop, pay for, and before you know it, you have about 10 or 12 other different taxes that will be served on you. Are those the people we will still want to tax more? No. We need to expand it, but we need to expand it to those people who have the ability, or who even have the work. You don't tax unemployed youths. You don't tax people who don't have means of livelihood. You have to provide for them first. Then, on the other side of the ladder are those who are stupendously rich. Come to Asokoro, come to Metama, you see a lot of structures that are so massive. These are structures worth millions of US dollars. Some of them are not even occupied. The owners, go to Abuja airport, you see count the number of private jets. They outnumber the number of public jets you can find there. If they don't triple them. We are saying that these people should be taxed appropriately. Let the wealthy be taxed appropriately. Let those who have pay more. It's a duty. The government has to have the moral will of the justification, not just the justification. They have to have the political will to tax people appropriately. Let those who have, let them pay more. And those who don't have, lessen the burdens on them. How do we lessen the burdens on the common man on the street? How can we make life more meaningful for them? How can we have social protection programs for them that will be all-encompassing, that will not be politically inclined? This is what the conversation should be. And beyond that, before leaving the issue of IMF, I think IMF should now help Nigeria to see how it can see to its, Nigeria is now saddled with so much debt. Debt servicing alone is taking millions and millions of dollars out of the policy. Again, I think IMF should lead the conversation on how Nigeria can stop servicing its debts now as part of COVID-19 recovery strategy towards how the Western world and the Brentwood organizations will be able to forgive the debts. That is how you can help the Nigerians on the streets. Nigerians are having it very tough. And we have what we call the Malabo Declaration of 2014, where we said, okay, by 2025, we are going to have poverty in Nigeria. And we are going to make sure that no Nigeria is hungry anymore. We are talking about 200 million people, and that is just 3 years away. How are we going to achieve that? Is it by now cutting social spending? You have to cut health budget that is 5% instead of being 50%, which is the Abuja Declaration. Are you now asking Nigeria to cut it further to 2%? I don't know. It doesn't make moral sense. It doesn't make humanity sense. And it is not going to be at the interest of Nigerians. And the Nigerian government should have the political will to now say, no, we are not going to take this bet from IMF.
Yeah. But a lot of people would say that perhaps we are putting too much responsibility on the IMF. Why don't we look inwards when you talk about debt servicing, when you talk about tax even, starting from there, the tax that is being paid, are we seeing the benefits of it? Are we seeing it being used as it should be used? Perhaps if that is done, then the issue of infrastructure, which will eventually feed into the economy of individuals and the country as a whole, perhaps this should be areas of consideration even before we start looking at IMF and the World Bank.
Thank you so much. One thing that is very unique about Nigeria is that there's a lot and lots of wastages. The Nigerian government system is way too large. It's way too large. Public consumption is too much. There are so much wastages in the system. There is so much corruption in the system that even the outside world, including IMF and World Bank, will look at us and say, are we really serious about making ends meet for our people? You have a government that is so big. Why can't we reduce the size of the government? Why must a minister come to work with probably 3, 4, 5 cars, all of them driven by drivers, all of them containing aides to aides and aides to special advisor to special advisor to special assistant? These are unnecessary. These are unproductive. Even the countries we look up to, we have their ministers going to work inside the train. They enter the train. For example, I think the Nigerian government need to look at the size of the government. They need to look at the wastages in the system. And it is high time we should make only those who are interested in serving to come into government. But I don't see that happening now. We are not even starting on a good note. If a political party has to ask somebody to pay £185 sterling to pick a nomination form, an application form to be a president, that is too much. That shouldn't be the starting point. In the UK, all you need is just £500 to become an MP. And if you lead your political party and your political party wins, you become the head of government, which is like the president of Nigeria, on your £500. This is what we are talking about. Are we really ready to get it right? Does the government have the political will to lead us aright? All of us have to start this conversation. We are looking forward to 2023, but we don't seem to be getting it right now from the beginning. We have to make politics and political activities here. We have to make it less attractive. We have to make it a serving. It has to be a service to the people and not a means to an end where people come to misuse the Commonwealth, mismanage the Commonwealth, and in some instances, brazenly steal the Commonwealth.
All right.
And Nigeria continues to go around the same cycle.
All right, Dr. Vincent Anwoze, thank you so much, Country Director of Oxfam. Very hard questions there, that Nigerians, both the leaders and the followers, would have to face and answer both individually and as a nation if we really want to move forward? Because, I mean, eventually we cannot place the growth or non-growth of our country on IMF or World Bank. Nigeria is supposed to be able to run its affairs. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Enjoy the rest of your day. And so now we move to the market. Last week in the equities market, it was green activities for, I think, all the days of the week. And the previous week, it was the same thing. It's been good all along. I can't say the same for the fixed income market. But what do I know? Will Ibong is here to give us the details of how the market traded last week. Hello, Will.
Hello, Ini. Good morning. Oh, as you rightly said, the equities market did fly last week, although it had a 4-day trading week because of the Easter holidays. But the rest of the week was fantastic for the equities. But we're going straight to the forex market and the fixed income market to see how that panned out last week. Nigeria's FX exchange, as the forex reserve, sustained its upward movement. We saw about $59.9 million added to the COFA, which brought it to about $39.8 billion as at April the 20th. Now, activities that brought activities at the forex markets closed mixed last week. We saw the mixed trading in that segment. Total turnover carried out last week in the FX spot, forwards and futures markets rose slightly by 3.27% to $600.41 million. Now, further analysis of the trading results shows that total value of transactions at the FX spot market, that's the I&E window, which you have here, traded to close that rose by 4.03% to close at $520.60 million there. And the FX derivative markets will, however, that fell by 1.43% to about $79 million. Now, the Naira depreciated at the NAFEX window by 0.16% to 416 Naira 77 kobo against the dollar. We saw bearish trading at the the bond markets. We also saw a bit of mixed trading there. Treasury bills market was also mixed, but we have Ladi Bello, fixed income analyst, a fixed income dealer at Access Bank, to give us more details about that. Hello, Ladi. How are you doing today? Hi, Ladi. Are you there with us? How are you doing today? Hello, Ladi. Are you there? Can you hear me, Ladi? Okay, a bit of a technical
Hi, Will,
glitch.
I can hear you.
Oh, Ladi.
Please repeat that.
Oh, yes. I said good morning. I was welcoming you on the program. So good to have you. Could you give us a bit of a deeper dive on what happened in the the fixed income market last week? We saw a bit of mixed trading for the bond space and bearish trading for the fixed income, the treasury bills market. Can you tell us what's going on there? What's causing the drop in yields in those segments?
Good morning. Well, thank you for having me. Well, the T-bills market experienced a bit of lull in the market last week, and simply because of the resistance of the rates, especially on the long end of the more and NTB curve. We've seen the yields on the long end hover around the 4.5% mark, which is previous NTB auction. This week, we have another auction expected to hold, given the total offering of about 120 billion by the DMO across the 3 maturities. So we still expect to see a bit of an upward trend in terms of yields when we compare to what's going on in the secondary market, where there's little to no interest across the curve. In the bond markets, we saw a little bit of mixed interest. We saw towards the end of last week a bit of demand on the shorter tenured instruments, the 2026 as well as the 2027 bonds. But by and large, it was a fairly quiet week, given the thin levels of liquidity in the system, alongside the general lack of appetite within the local players for the bond instruments in our market. So today as well, we have a bond auction where a total of about 225 billion will be on offer across the standard buckets, the 25, the 32, as well as the long tenor 20-year reopening. So we also expect an increment in rates across these 3 maturities.
Okay, so is that going to affect this bond auction? It's going to affect the secondary, it's going to spill over to the secondary market. It's going to influence yields in that space?
Yes, agreed. On the short end of the curve, we've seen the 2025 traded around or hover around the 9.2% mark last week. But given the, what I say, lack of investor appetite, we expect to see a rise in yields on this front as well. On the new paper, that's the 2032, which is the 10-year fresh opening. We expect this to print above the 12% mark. It's a bit difficult to exactly say where the yields will close, since there's nothing in the market to compare it to. But given where the 36s, 37s are trading in the markets around the 12.4 to 12.5% mark, we also expect the 32s to close roughly around this mark. Given the investor appetite, we're going to see a bit of demand on the fresh paper, given the FAC inflows that are expected. So we expect to see a bit more liquidity in the market this week, stemming from the FAC inflows, as well as the coupon across the 23, 29, and 49 bonds. This should be about 169 billion in total.
Okay, thank you so much, Ladi, for that insight. We look forward to bullish markets, or maybe it's a bullish market for investors. We look forward to uptaking yields in the fixed income space. Thank you so much for coming on the program. So, Ini, that's what we have for the markets. Equities markets closed green. I'm smiling. 2% up last week.
We hit that 48.
We hit the 48 and also the 26 trillion naira mark. You know, it was smooth sailing, just cruising into that. And so we hope that this week...
I hope you're ready for profit taking.
Well, no, I don't think we're gonna.
Guard your heart and get ready. Guard your heart and get ready.
No, I'm just, you know, I'm bracing myself. I think the market's going to be green.
All right, Will, thank you so much. We'll certainly see what happens in the market this week.
Okay.
Well, from Nigeria to the UK, that's where we'll be going to, but that'll be after the break. We'll have Juliana join us. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. We're over to the UK now. A team from the Ministry of Trade and Investment is in London for this week. Thank God we have Juliana there to be our eyes and ears. Hello, Juliana. Good morning.
Good morning, Inni. Good morning from inside the library of the Nigeria High Commission in London.
Yeah, because I was wondering where you were. So is the team, are they there yet? What are they talking about? Why are they there?
Well, I'm having a look just across the hallway here. It doesn't look like they've arrived just yet. But as you said, yes, we are expecting the Minister of Trade and Investment, as well as his team, to arrive for a courtesy call to the Nigeria High Commissioner in London this morning. And it kicks off a really exciting and engaging a few days where lots of individuals from the private sector within the United Kingdom will be having economic dialogue. From here, they will travel just a few miles, just a few minutes away to the House of Commons, where they'll be having lunch. But most importantly, they are here for the Economic Dialogue Forum. That takes place tomorrow, and that is being hosted jointly by the Minister for Africa, Vicky Ford, as well as the Minister for Investment in the UK, Penny Mordaunt. We know that, of course, Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa, but unfortunately, having had a quick glance at the data released earlier this morning by the Office for National Statistics, we're currently the 48th biggest, if you say, a trading partner with the United Kingdom. So there's so much more work that needs to be done to make sure that bridges can be crossed. So we're looking forward to that communique, which will be released tomorrow. But as for now, it's a little bit of pomp and ceremony. The event was supposed to take place at 10. It's 5 minutes to 11, and nobody seems to be here yet. But hopefully the discussions will be fruitful.
All right, Juliana, I'm sure we're going to follow up on that. Business Incorporated, we're going to have, by then I believe they would have been around, and then you'd have gathered more information, and then we'll talk about it on Business Incorporated. Thank you for, finding that little place to join us this morning.
Thank you, Amy. Talk later.
Yeah. So from London, we head to the crypto space. Ladi, it was supposed to be a red weekend. That's why I decided to do red this morning.
Yeah, you were right to actually do red, because it was a red weekend, and we're also having a red Monday to the first trading day of the week. It's well, the market doesn't close, and we see the fear greed index is even worse than it was last week. It's extreme fear. We're at fear last time, but now it's at 23 points, showing that traders are quite panicking in the market right now. Some like to buy, some of that panic, but some actually try to stay out of the market. But looking at the market cap, we see it's $1.79 trillion. It's down about 2.86%. Volume traded this morning is up about 35% from sell-offs with Bitcoin and some of the altcoins in the market. Bitcoin dominance sits at 41.31%. And we see a price of Bitcoin has lost that $40,000 mark at $38,900 this morning. It's down 1.95%. So we're seeing that 40K level being flipped into resistance at this point. Volume traded $27.03 billion. And we see Ethereum also losing the $3,000 mark. It's down to about 2,800, down 3.68%. Volume traded $17.89 billion from the sell-offs we see with Ethereum. Top alts by market cap, it's all red on that counter. With BNB there, $391. It's lost the $400 mark, down 3%. And we see XRP now below the 70-cent range. 66 cents, down 6.33%. All right, we have Olumide additional there now. Hello, Olumide, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Ladi. A very red Monday.
Very red Monday from a red weekend, and it's going to be an eventful week. We still have earning results, coming out for global equities markets. How are you seeing all of these impact the crypto market in this week?
Yeah, I think the odds are with the bears. If you look at the narrative you just highlighted from price action, Bitcoin is trading at just around the support level of $38,500, suggesting to you that many investors are taking risk-off mode. Now, if you look at accumulation, surprisingly, you will see that a lot of institutional and oldies are really keeping their bags quite off the exchange, and that seems to be really that really seems to be what is making volatility a bit lower in the crypto market. But exciting news is just like I think, like we rightly said in the previous week, crypto adoption is really going up. We're seeing body apes, NFTs, for example, the floor price has really gone up the roof. The last time I checked, the minimum floor price was $250,000. That would really buy you a property at Lekki, And also, if you look at the token behind it, it's appreciating despite the fact that we are seeing the US dollar at 2-year high. But having said that, with any results coming in, about 160 companies in the S&P 500 will be bringing out their data this week. Investors are being very picky. They don't want to be caught on all fire cylinders. And, Russia, Ukraine still remains on the headline. We're seeing the Russians being adamant, hitting Ukraine's side, especially in the eastern part of the country. So that's why we are seeing liquidity drying in the crypto market right now, Ladi.
Quite interesting. And looking at the NASDAQ, we know there's a correlation between, Bitcoin and the NASDAQ index. But how are you seeing the NASDAQ playing out this week?
Yeah, positivity, Google shares, earning results, Google, Microsoft, these are big trillion-dollar market value companies. So investors possibly will be trying to look at indicators if the Russian invasion, if the strong dollar has affected earnings. Any disappointing earning might really weigh on the crypto market. Just like rightly said, the correlation between the Bitcoin and tech stocks is kind of very positive. But having said that, we see Bitcoin trying to decouple, adoption. Recently, the Central African Republic really announced that they accepting Bitcoin as legal tender. Though that sounds like more symbolic, we are seeing adoption rising. So while we are seeing a decoupling effect in the nearest future, right now, I think it's fair to say that what happens in the tech stocks will really have a strong impact in the crypto market, Ladi.
Right, Olumide, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much, Olumide.
Thank you, Ladi.
All right, so Eni, there you have it. It's a very lean gainers counter this morning, just 2.71% gain from that move to earn token. That's a step in. That's $3.29. We see the ape coin there. That one's still trying to rise at this point, up 2.33%, even though it's a full red market. And yeah, any Central African Republic, first in Africa to adopt Bitcoin. I wonder how it's gone for El Salvador.
El Salvador, I think they should look that way first and get some glean some lessons from there before they not to, I mean,
well, quite interesting times. Like,
yeah.
I never thought I'd see a time where countries are actually adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. Quite interesting.
Yeah, very interesting time. Thank you so much, Ladi. That's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. At 1:30, we'll have more stories, updates from the world of business. So do join us at that time. For me, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Ini John McFarland.